Good afternoon and welcome to the latest episode of Mortal Kombat Franchise Documentary. I'm delighted this evening to be joined by Adoni Maropis, who played the role of Quan Chi in Mortal Kombat Conquest. I suppose, Adoni, first of all, Mortal Kombat, the Lumini, the sort of family, it's growing and growing at a phenomenal rate on the success of the usually successful video games and more. A new movie coming out, a blockbuster movie coming out in 2021. I suppose you're the part of that sort of Mortal Kombat franchise, that sort of history, very associated with the character Quan Chi, and to be a part of that sort of fraternity, that rare sort of family sort of fraternity that is the empire that is Mortal Kombat. Is that something you're still delighted about even to this day?
You know, I'm delighted for it, but not for probably the reasons that you may think. Like everyone else has been a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I didn't know anything about the game. I didn't know. When I had this audition, I had no idea that there was a video game. Honest to God, I've never played a game on a computer. Tic-tac-toe on my phone. That's about it that I've played game-wise. But I just love the character, and I fell in love with that character. And having three beautiful slaves was a great joy. Now, afterwards, I found out, oh, this is a game that people play. And I was thinking, oh my God, I hope I'm doing it justice. But, people have told me, I get messages all the time. Oh, you were great. I'm thinking, okay, good. But I didn't follow the game. I don't know anything about this guy. I learned it as I got into makeup and I saw them put the makeup on me 2 hours. It took 2 hours to put me in white makeup. I didn't even know they were going to do that. And I looked in the mirror and I just went, that's how it all started. It was like, oh, okay, I get a feel for this guy. But I just saw him as an evil sorcerer from outer space. I had no idea that he was huge in Mortal Kombat 4. So yeah, I'm a little bit different, I think, from most of the people that you've interviewed. I was an actor looking for a job and loved playing characters and loved creating. So I just created this guy out of thin air, basically. So
you created a character out of thin air in terms of that, and I suppose that's almost your own sort of touch, your own sort of feel, your own identity with that character. Because in fairness, Quan Chi didn't appear in the two original Mortal Kombat movies in 1995 and the Mortal Kombat Annihilation in 1997. So it gave you sort of a free rein in terms of what you wanted to do with the character, because it hadn't sort of been done before.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I was given the Mortal Kombat Bible that they gave me to read on a plane. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But I had no idea that, he was white face and had blades coming up and all that sort of thing. I didn't know that. But it gave me free rein to create. And actually they were scared of my creation at the beginning. They were like, oh, it's too much. So the second episode that I did, they wanted me to bring it down, sort of like a soap opera, talking head. And we had to go into ADR, voiceover, and redo the second episode to match the first episode, because they said, you know what? We changed our minds. The first episode was so good. Can you kind of match up that talking head with that first episode? And I said, I'll do my best. So I tried to put a voice with a bit more energy than what I did for that second episode. So Quan Chi was developed. They weren't sure what to do with me, because I brought everything to the plate,
I suppose, Adoni, in terms of thinking of sort of voice, when I heard it for the first time, it struck me as the great actor Telly Savalas. It sort of had this sort of ring, that sort of feel, so that sort of tone in the sort of voice. Was that something that you were going for, or was Telly Savalas an inspiration to you growing up? It just sort of struck me watching a good lot of old sort of movie in the past about Telly Savalas. And I was like, there's a similarity in the sort of tone there.
That's hilarious that you would say that, because, I'm Greek and Telly Savalas is Greek, or was Greek. But I never thought of him for the part. I mean, we both have bald heads now, but I came out here and he was like the first guy, people saying, you got to get in touch with Telly Savalas. But no, I don't know what character you're talking about that he played, but now I want to know, and I want to see that movie or TV show you're talking about. I knew him as Kojak. So Kojak played nothing in my character development. I promise you that.
And I suppose Adoni, in terms of Mortal Kombat Conquest, I suppose a massive sort of show, and it sort of brought the Mortal Kombat franchise on down in that sort of new era. It went away sort of from a PG sort of an era, and it got in touch with the sort of the true depth of sort of Mortal Kombat, and a massive following, one of the most popular rated TV sort of shows at that time. And I suppose in terms of that, when you came out in 1998, 1999, you were probably just before that sort of Netflix bubble. If you think you were around for that, do you think you could have Mortal Kombat Conquest? Definitely the material was there, and it was so successful. It could have maybe ran for 2 or 3 years. You could have got 2 or 3 more seasons of a platform like Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to have it run. I mean, to me, I could play this character forever and ever, every day of my life. I mean, just to wake up and put on the Quan Chi voice, you know, that was incredible, you know, lowering my octave and playing it. And I know things happen to stop it from continuing, but they had told me that I would have a bigger role in the second season and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I was really disappointed, but yeah, it would be fantastic to have done it. And if there's any chance 20 some years later that we can do that, let's do it.
And one thing that struck me, Adoni, about Mortal Kombat Conquest was how evil the men were, but their sidekicks, the women, how evil they were in Portal. And in terms of Bruce Locke, he had Vortex, Tracy Douglas, who was his sort of go-between. For you, it was Jamie Presley, who played Mika. She probably stood out of, in terms of your three sort of temptresses. She was the sort of main one. And you had a sort of great sort of connection yourself and Jamie on screen.
Yeah, no, Jamie was my main slave. She was incredible. But you know, Quan Chi loved all of his slaves. And actually, Renee Tennyson was someone I had admired in Playboy magazine many years before. So I was enthralled by her. No, they were all awesome. They were all incredible and so fun to be around. And yeah, to work with Mika again, you know, Mika, oh my God, you know, that would be incredible. Yeah. And you're right, Vorpax was a little bit sweeter, I think. She had a sweetness to her with Mr. Locke, Mr. Bruce Locke, as Shang Tsung. Yeah. So.
And I suppose, in terms of your sort of martial arts background, in terms of getting cast for the role of Quan Chi, did you have much sort of a background or training? It's interesting to see some of the characters. I spoke to Angelica Bridges, who played the character Metis, and she talked about maybe her cheerleading background and ability to be able to stunts and roles and sort of stuff. How about yourself in terms of getting cast for Quan Chi? Did you have a good sort of martial arts pedigree?
You know, Jim, I'm an athlete. I'm an all-around athlete, so I've dabbled in everything. You know, I'm a ping pong champion, national champion. I was a ranked tennis player. I'm a fitness freak. And so I've dabbled in all kind of things. So I had a little bit of background, but that said, I hardly did any of the things for Mortal Kombat. They filmed all that stuff while I was filming A camera. They were on B camera filming with, I think, an Olympic champion who was playing my character, my stunt double, and he was amazing. He was unbelievable. I could not do the things that he could do. And what was funny is people thought that was me, and they would tell me, "Wow, Adoni, when you get angry as Quan Chi, your ears flare up." And I'm thinking, those aren't my ears, you know. That's my stunt double's ears. And I forget his name, but he was a fantastic guy, unbelievable stuntman and karate guy. So I just had, you know, I dabbled in Taekwondo and Kung Fu, and, you know, I learned some of the fighting techniques, but no, he did everything. You know, they used me for close-ups, and I didn't even know how incredible he was until the first episode that I saw, and I went, oh my God, I didn't realize that, as they filmed me with the close-ups, thinking, you know, I thought I'd be a lot more cooler and relaxed, but no, he was flipping around and doing all these things, and yeah, he was amazing. So yeah, my experience is just being sort of an athlete who can do some karate, do some martial arts. Yeah.
was a vigorous sort of casting role. Did you have to go through two or three auditions to land the role of Quan Chi?
Oh, I went to the first audition I went to. I wore black gloves, leather gloves, and I sat down. And they said, no, Adoni, we see this guy standing. And I said, well, let me sit. And they said, well, we see. I said, just let me sit. If you want to change it, I'll gladly do it. But please let me sit. I see this guy sitting. So I sat, and I did it. And they went, and I said, would you like me to stand? They said, no, that was great. That was great. So I went to the callback. Larry Kasanoff was there, and he says, Adoni, you sit very well and all that, but can you stand? And I said, well, I see him sitting. I said, I know you do it great sitting, but we just want to see him standing. And I said, okay. So I stood, and he goes, wait, what about the leather gloves? Why are you wearing leather gloves? I said, well, I see this guy's an evil sorcerer. I thought, that maybe he'd be wearing leather gloves, and he says, well, okay, that's fine. So I did it standing. I said, okay, great. So then I got the part. And when I went to the set in Orlando, Florida, the director said to me, he says, how do you see this guy? You see him standing or sitting? I said, well, I see him sitting until when he stands, he stands. He stands. So he says, I see the same thing. Get Adoni a chair, bring a throne in here. So that's how it all started. And but it was 2 auditions that I had to go through. Mm-hmm.
Adoni, you mentioned about costume and you mentioned about makeup in terms of getting ready, but the whole sort of costume, that sort of black sort of leatherness that Quan Chi had, and in terms of what around with that, was it just mainly a sort of a jacket, a sort of leather, or how long did it take you to get into that sort of costume? Did you arrive maybe to make up maybe 2 hours before shooting the scenes, or?
Yeah, no, it took 2 hours in makeup. So I would get in costume, and I don't know how long that took, but I always had people helping me put on the costume. That's what I remember. And makeup took 2 hours. And literally I would close my eyes for 2 hours, sort of go into meditation, running my lines in my head. And then I'd just open my eyes, and then I'm ready to go. But I always had many people around me. There's actually a great picture of me where you see like 7 people, working on me as I'm talking to the director, and someone's painting my nails, someone's doing my head, someone's, fixing things on my costume. It took a long time. It took at least 2 hours in makeup alone. And then afterward, it took an hour to get everything off, like get the makeup off. So it was a good 3.5, like 4 hours, not counting the waiting around and sitting around waiting to act and acting. So it was always a long day, always a long day, but fun, incredible day,
I suppose, Adoni, you don't really remember. I suppose it's hard to remember such episodes after this long length of time. But maybe one thing struck me there. There was an episode where shape-shifting, where yourself and Mika took the roles of Zero and sort of Taj in terms of their own sort of bodies. In terms of being an actor and sort of voicing over and putting your voice to that, how did that sort of, in terms of that, how did that come about? Were you just standing at the background and he was sort of moving his lips and you were talking, or how did you manage to pull off that sort of thing?
I don't remember how. I just know that whenever you saw Quan Chi, it was me, and when you ever saw him, it was him. But I just remember him coming up in Zero, right? That was his name, Zero. Is that right?
Yeah.
Daniel Bernhardt, and he'd say, Adoni, how do you do that thing? The and I said, no, it's not it's Then he'd go, okay, and so he kept practicing So then when he got to do it, and I saw him, it was just great. He's like, that was what I remember about that. And of course, the imagining what me and Mika had to do, that was fun, and playing around with her when she's playing with my blades, that was a lot of fun. But yeah, you're bringing back memories that I want to jump into this role right now.
I suppose, Tony, in terms of your chemistry on screen, I suppose people will look at the protagonist and the action and the hero. But probably some of your best scenes in Mortal Kombat Conquest was with another villain, Shang Tsung, Bruce Locke. And when you sort of butted heads, it probably brought out the best of both of your characters.
Shang Tsung. Yeah. Oh, man. It was fun, man. It's funny because I know these guys as regular guys, you know, and then to get into character and then see that other side, and to have this, you know, because I've become my character. I love, like, I'm Quan Chi when I'm Quan Chi, and he's, you know, Bruce Locke is Shang Tsung, and it was so fun to be in that place. And I think at one point we even got mad at each other at one point or something. We were like, you know, into characters so much. But yeah, that was a blast. That was a blast. You know, the only part I didn't get to really explore was, again, the actual fighting of it, because they were filming that on B camera somewhere else. Now, it would have been fun to actually physically get into some fighting too. You know, we did a little bit of it, just the close-ups when they needed close-ups of us. But yeah, yeah. I mean, you reminded me of playing the greatest character of all time, the character that was, to me, he would have won every Halloween costume, you know, event ever. You know, he would have won them all, you know. So it was just a blast.
But your success in terms of Quan Chi in Mortal Kombat Conquest, then it brought him big time into the video gaming sort of world. In he popped up in numerous video games afterwards in Mortal Kombat and became very much an established sort of character after that. So in terms of everyone that sort of voices Quan Chi now, it's almost like that you have to go as similar or as familiar Adoni's interpretation as possible if they're to land the gig.
Yeah, I don't know. I think what you're saying is that people are imitating me a little bit or taking some of what I did. I don't know. I think every Quan Chi is different, and I think now, like, they have the red tattoo on his head, and like, I don't like that. That's not how I, you know, I didn't have that when I played him. So to me, it's like, what are you doing to Quan Chi? You know, that's not Quan Chi. But hey, whatever, you know, he lives on, and there are dolls of Quan Chi, and hey, it's fantastic. Whatever, you know, create your own Quan Chi, whoever you are, do it. Even though I would love to monopolize the Quan Chis out there and play them all and do them all and wherever they're at. So
yeah, I suppose Johnny, there's big excitement and anticipation for the new Mortal Kombat movie coming out in 2021. I saw an article there about Luce Tang, who's playing one of the main characters, and he said when he came home, he said most nights he found it hard to sleep. It was that sort of dark in terms of where it's sort of heading, and it's sort of reminiscent and reminded him of the sort of Dark Knight and the sort of Joker and sort of where it was sort of going. And I think that's right for Mortal Kombat in the 21st century to head in that sort of direction, to get back to its sort of, it was always an R-rated sort of type game, a sort of conquest. And I suppose in 1995 and 97, I suppose in terms of the movie world, certain things weren't probably acceptable as what they are now in terms of what you can do.
yeah, I think that'd be great, you know. And the only thing missing is me. I want to be in it, you know. The original movie had me in it. I was like the villain, and you know, I'd read the script and I was like, yeah, let's do it, but that didn't happen. So that's the only thing missing. But yeah, move forward, onward, you know. Change is always welcome if it's working, and yeah, make it a franchise in a sense of bring them out like any comic, you know, Superman or whatever, Batman series, like you said, and you know, yeah.
I suppose, Tony, you mentioned that about the new movie, and there's almost a sense of a draw and a sense of excitement, and you almost feel this energy in terms of you wanting to be chomping at the bit, wanting to be there at it. So I can imagine if a cameo role came about, or if our directors were on the phone and said, listen, we want to flashback into Shang Tsung sort of past, go back to his sort of roots and relive some of these sort of memories. I suppose obviously that would bring Quan Chi very much to the core, and I suppose would it be a 2 thumbs up for you if you got a phone call from the producers looking on at this now and saying, listen, we need to explore an extra layer to Shang Tsung's character? Would that be something you'd be up for?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? I think you can tell by now that I would love to play Quan Chi forever. I can do him every day. I just need someone to put my white makeup on. I've never been a makeup artist, so just do that and I'm ready to go. I would love that.
And I suppose, Adoni, you mentioned there about the success of Mortal Kombat Conquest, and in terms of obviously scenarios didn't make it come about, but you spoke about there was possibility of storylines in the work for season 2 in terms of your own sort of character and that. So obviously, I suppose Mortal Kombat Conquest was a sort of great success in terms of that, and obviously, if the movie is sort of a great success, it might open up those doors or opportunities to relive alongside that, given that there was so much material in Mortal Kombat Conquest. And it had a beginning, it had a middle, and it had an end in every episode. And every episode I felt would stand on its own. If you didn't see the first 2 episodes of Mortal Kombat Conquest and you watch episode 10 for the first time, and that was your first take Mortal Kombat Conquest, it could stand on its own 2 feet. It wasn't depending on episodes before or afterwards.
Yeah, no, exactly. It did. It stood on its own. Now it had its own, like I said, it had its own Bible, it had its own history that people who were into Mortal Kombat really understood. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what you're asking me in this question, but it did. It stood on its own, and yeah.
And I suppose, Adoni, the last sort of question I'll ask you now, there tonight, it's probably one of the most difficult I'll ask you. If you spoke about the Mortal Kombat Bible, and I suppose if they put the character Quan Chi into that, in terms of a dictionary sort of Bible, and they left 2 blank sentences underneath, and they asked you, Adoni Maropis, what would you like those 2 sentences to read after portraying Quan Chi? How would you sum him up?
You know what? It's funny you would ask me that, because I'm the type of actor is that, like, I never reveal where I get my stuff. And I almost flunked my acting class in performing arts school because I refused to give in my notebook, my character notes. And I almost flunked the class. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. It's too personal. So Quan Chi for me is made up of so many different facets. And I couldn't put them down. I just couldn't, because he comes from a place that people would be surprised how I created him. Now, I wrote it in my script. I wrote all these things down in my script. Maybe one day I'll put it out there on eBay, and then people can see and understand where this guy really comes from. And it might be eye-opening, but I just, I don't know how to answer that, except he's everything that is written in the Bible and more, and much more. So...
Adoni, just to wrap it up, you mentioned there about the characters in Mortal Kombat Conquest, and obviously it was a great successful series. Did you some of those friendships, are they still there to this day in terms of actors and actors that have played there? Have you made sort of lifelong friends, and how recently have you been in kept touch with anyone in terms of that was on that sort of show?
Yeah, I just texted Daniel Bernhardt. He's filming in Europe, or he was. So we've kind of stayed in contact, not much over the past few years, but we're still in contact, obviously. And Jeff Meek, still there. But I don't really stay in touch with my slaves. They've kind of moved on.
To your disappointment.
Yeah, to my disappointment, yeah. But I would love to get together and see everybody and hang out and, relive some of those great moments. And it was too short, it was a bit too short. 22 episodes and just a little bit too short,
On that note, Adoni Maropis, pleasure talking to you this evening, reliving your memories of Quan Chi and Mortal Kombat Conquest, reliving all those past glories and no doubt future stories to come. And I suppose no doubt in a week or two that phone will be hopping for that cameo role, and you'll be getting the flight and in terms of the cinema reveal in 2021. And Adoni, I'm sure this is not the last time we do in Quan Chi's and playing that sort of character. You're very much associated in terms of Mortal Kombat fanfare and fan lore that's known all around the world. In this troublesome times, safekeeping to you, your family, and your loved ones.
And back at you. Thank you very much for the interview. It was fun. Thanks.
Fight.